Hi students, welcome to yet another session of my class. Hope all of you are fine. Stay safe at home. Let us discuss our topic. Today we are going to discuss language as a system of signs. That means sign symbol distinction in language. Especially particularly we are going to study the nature of the linguistic sign. Yes, let us discuss in detail. The language system is made up of signs. According to Saussure, sign is the central fact of language. Then what is the sign and what is its nature? Yes, a sign is a physical marker which carries some information. The information it gives is direct, brief, and precise. That means meaning only this, no other. And this concept is opposed to symbol. So, what do you mean by a sign? A sign is a physical marker which carries some information, and this content or this idea is opposed to symbol, and symbol which means more than mere indication. It contains more information and stands in place of something as a means of pointing towards it indirectly. So sign gives its direct, brief, and precise, and symbol means pointing towards it indirectly. That means more than mere indication. For example, the gesture of waving one's hand, it is a sign, but we can be interpreted variously as symbolic of farewell, dismissal, etc. Similarly, a way of dressing or eating is a sign which signals some social practice or belief. This concept, when applied to all our behavior and to our society and culture, shows us that our entire culture is made up of signs which are of special significance or meaning in our culture. So Saussure's notion of sign, according to this context, has led to the growth of a whole area of study of the operation of signs in culture and society, and later it developed as a branch called semiotics. So semiotics, it is the study of the operation of signs in culture and society. That branch is called semiotics. And in language studies, this helps us to understand what language is. The linguistic sign consists of two parts. You already studied in your critical paper, in your structuralism theory, which are the two parts. That is, a sign consists of two parts. That is the signifier and the signified. Or the word which signifies, that is the word image, is the signifier, and the concept or the object that is signified, it is a signified. So this signifier plus signified together constitute what? That is sign. For example, the word tree, T-R-E-E, tree, that is the word image, and it signifies a concept that we can see in our surroundings. That concept, tree, signifies that thing. So, but the word tree does not signify the actual object, that is the tree. Then if it did, the word for this object in all languages would have been the same, that is tree. But we know that this object is called by different names in different languages. Am I right? Yes. In English, we call it as tree. But in other languages, yes, we know that there are different other names to signify that thing. This means that the word tree does not represent the actual object in real life. It represents the concept or the image of the object that we have in our minds. It just signifies the mental image or the mental concept that what we have in our minds. And we see an object in the real world and form a concept of it in our minds. We invent a word consisting of some sound images which we then use to represent the concept that exists in our minds. And there is no logical reason why we choose a certain combination of sounds to represent the concept. That is TREE. This we choose. There is no logical reason behind yes why we choose a certain combination of sounds to represent that concept. So we see that the relationship between the sounds or words and the concept they signify is an arbitrary one. That is, you already studied. That is, there is no one-to-one relationship between signifier and signified. That means the word image and the concept. That is, the relationship is purely arbitrary in nature. That means relational in nature. That is the tree, that word or sound image, that is the signifier. It signifies that concept of tree, that is the mental image, or it is the signified. So that which signifies, the word is the signifier and that concept is the signified. Then sign. Sign is the composite of both. I already told you that is a signifier plus signified. That is the sign. That is, it consists of the relationship between the signifier and the signified. This relationship, once established, continues over a long period of time. It is established as a social fact, that is by society, since it is an arbitrary, not a logical relationship. That is, as it is not established by reason. Reason in the sense there is no inherent or reasonable connection between the object and the sounds used to represent it. So, only social agreement can give it validity. That means there is no logical relationship between this signifier and signified. Only social agreement can give it validity or its existence. It becomes valid and acceptable, therefore, only through social agreement. There is no intrinsic basis to it. This is how the linguistic sign is arbitrary in nature. That's why we called it as arbitrary, because there is no intrinsic basis. Understand? Then sign makes up the system of a language. Signs are relational entities. They exist only in terms of relation to each other, and they also enter into complex relationships with each other, and these relationships constitute the whole system of the language. Since signs are based on arbitrary relationships, they differ from one language to another. Concepts about the signified, that is the object, differ from one language to another. Every society constructs its own concepts of the real world and links these concepts to certain signifiers and signifies arbitrarily chosen in any way it wants. But once the relationships are made, individuals are not free to choose any other arbitrary signifiers they want to. But once the relationships are established or made, individuals are not free to choose any arbitrary signifiers they want to choose. So its social agreement gives its validity and existence. Then what do you mean by symbol? Or how can we define, or what is the difference between the symbol and sign? A symbol is a kind of sign that signifies several concepts on the basis of the primary relationship between signifier and signified. That is, the word tree signifies the concept of tree. This is the primary relationship. It may also signify life, growth, greenery, vegetation, etc. And when it does, it becomes not only a sign but also a symbol. So a symbol is built up of several associative relationships between the signifiers and the signifies. That is why we say that language is a system of symbolic signs. Since there are often very complex associative relationships between the signifiers and the signifieds in a language. So in short, we can say that language is a system of signs, symbolic signs. I think all of you understand this part. Next, we are going to discuss about syntagmatic and paradigmatic relationship in language. That means, in otherwise, we can say that the structure system distinction in language. The syntagmatic and paradigmatic you already studied in your structuralism theory. And yes, in linguistics, we are again going to study the same concept. And yes, it is otherwise called structure system distinction. That is syntagmatic and paradigmatic. What do you mean by this concept? Yes, we all know that language is structured. Yes, language is structured and that it is a system of systems. When we discuss about the characteristics of language, yes, we already discussed language is a system of systems and it is structured. This means that it is structured in such a way that its elements are interrelated to form a system at each level of its structure. Thus, sounds are interrelated to form the phonological system, that is phonetics. Words are interrelated to form the morphological system, morphemes, morphological units that we are going to study later. Then word classes are interrelated to form the syntactic structure or the style, that stylistics or the word order, that structure of a sentence. Word classes are interrelated. That means language is structured and it is a system of systems, phonological order, morphological system, then syntactic system, etc. For example, we can compare the structure of language to an orchestra. Orchestra means a group of musicians playing instruments. That is orchestra. The members of an orchestra are all related to each other by their specific roles as orchestra players in the orchestra as a whole. Please listen. The members of an orchestra are all related. Orchestra, the term includes, we know that violinist, pianist, then harmonist, drum, etc. So the members of an orchestra are all related to each other by their specific roles as orchestra players in the orchestra as a whole. This all together called what we call as orchestra. And as smaller groups within orchestra, that is a group of violinists, a group of bass players or pianists or something like that, each performs its function in relation to the others and players cannot be added to or taken away from an orchestra without changing its quality. That is what we mean by structure. An ordered composition of many parts. That's what we call as structure. Each part being related to the whole. This violinist is an essential part. Harmonist is an essential part. Pianist is an essential part. That means each part being related to the whole and also related to other elements within it. And each part by interrelationship of elements in it that constitutes a system. So I think all of you understand that distinction, structure system distinction. So each part, that what we call as the structure, that ordered composition of many parts, that we call as a structure, and each part by interrelationship of elements in it that constitutes a system. I think all of you understand. Then within each system elements are selected and combined in building up the structure. Yes, in each system, elements are selected and combined in building up the structure. For example, if we wish to build up a word such as take, T-A-K-E, the word take, we will select some sounds. Out of several sounds possible, we know that we have 44 sounds in English. So out of several sounds possible, we select only T sound, A sound and K sound. And then we combine them in a particular order. Order in the sense we decide which one is to occur first. The first one is E, second one is A, then the third one is K. That we decide which one is to occur first and which later. This in the process of selection, certain rules operate. We can select one element at a time from among a class of similar elements. For example, a particular consonant from a class of similar consonants. J sound is a consonant sound. A is a diphthong. K is another consonant. That is, we can select one element at a time from among a class of similar elements. For example, a noun from a class of nouns. Then we choose the consonant T instead of K as the first sound. That is, we have here three sounds T, A, K, but we select T as first one. Or instead of B, S, C or K or other sounds, we select T sound, and which we could have chosen because they are all similar. That is, they are all plosive sounds. T, K, B, all are plosive sounds, but we select from that category, we select only T sound. That is the selection of sounds. Instead of K sound, instead of B sound or other sounds, we select one sound, that is T sound. That selection of sound. Can you understand? So they belong to the same category of sounds. The relationship between those elements which are similar because they belong to the same class or category is called paradigmatic relationship. Then what do you mean by paradigmatic relationship? Yes, the relationship between those elements which are similar because they belong to the same class or category is called a paradigmatic relationship, and which holds between several elements that belong to the same class within a system. For example, the relationship between plosive consonants in the phonological system, or the relationship between the nouns in the syntactic system. So yes, the relationship between those elements which are similar because they belong to the same class or category is called paradigmatic relationship, and this which holds between several elements that belong to the same class within a system. Then what do you mean by syntagmatic relationship? In the process of combination of these elements, we combine the chosen elements in a particular order or sequence. First of all, we choose those elements from the category, same category. Second process is the process of combination of these elements. We combine the chosen elements in a particular order or sequence. Here too, there are certain rules. For instance, for example, we can combine take, T sound plus A plus K sound. So in this order, but not in the order A plus T plus K. The correct order is T plus A plus K, not in the order K plus A plus T or A plus T plus K. A. It is clear that there is a particular order or sequence which must be followed. The three elements that follow one another in a particular sequence are related in what can be called as syntagmatic relationship. That means one follows the other in a linear order. And it is by following this order that the structure of a word or sentence is built up. So in short, we can say that paradigmatic relationship is equal to between elements in a class or system, and only one can operate at a time. That is the characteristic feature of paradigmatic relationship. That means selection from a same category. Then syntagmatic relationship, that means between elements in a linear sequence, that is structural. For example, in the paradigmatic relationship, T can be replaced by B, or A can be replaced by U sound, K sound, and K can be replaced by T. Each can be replaced by another element from within the same system and class. So we cannot put a consonant in place of the vowel, but we can replace one vowel by another. In the syntagmatic relationship, the elements have to be combined in the proper sequence, and we cannot violate the sequential order. On the basis of these paradigmatic and syntagmatic relationships, rules of selection and combination operate, and taken together, these constitute the structure of a language. They are like the two intersecting threads that build up the fabric of language, this structure and system. Because of these relationships, we say that language has duality of structure. At one level, we select particular elements out of many. At another level, we combine these elements to form a structural unit. With a limited number of elements, we can construct a large number of combinations. All of you understand? All of you understand the relationship between syntagmatic and paradigmatic structure system distinction. Let us conclude the topic. That is, system is the set of paradigmatic relationships between elements, and structure is the set of syntagmatic relationships between elements at each level in the language. At the level of sounds, there is a phonological system. That means consisting of vowels, sounds, diphthongs, consonants, etc. And a phonological structure, that is determining the combination of these vowels and consonants. That is the term structure here. At the level of sentence formation, there is a syntactic system that is consisting of word classes such as noun, verb, adjective, adverb, etc. And a syntactic structure that is determining the combination of these word classes and to enable the formation of sentences. I think all of you understand this session. That is, first we discussed about language as a system of signs, and we concluded by saying that language is a symbolic sign. Then next we discussed syntagmatic paradigmatic relationship, and it is otherwise called system structure distinction. And I think all of you understand this session, and there is a homework for you, and the homework is write a note on symbol sign distinction in language. That means language as a symbolic sign. Then second one, structure system distinction, that is syntagmatic and paradigmatic relationship in language. Write your homework and send back to me. Thank you. Have a nice day. See you again.